Venus and star blessings, everybody. Welcome back and welcome to any new people watching. Before I start, I just want to mention to you guys my classes are open. You're welcome to join. I'm running them as 10-week blocks. We're halfway through the first block, but they are open if you just want to jump in for a single class or a few classes. It's up to you. If you want to know more about it, just email me and I'll send you the information. Also, if you guys do like my videos, there is a super thanks button. So feel free to click on that and show your appreciation as well. I don't normally mention it, but it is there and I keep forgetting to mention it, and perhaps people don't notice it or whatever the case, but it does help me to survive as well. So today's topic is the lunar eclipse that's coming up. And of course, again, I come in with a heavy heart relative to what is going on in the world. And yes, I was going to do this recording yesterday, but yesterday I felt so overwhelmed on every single level with everything that's going on. So I literally could not sit down and speak. I do feel better today though, but nevertheless, the subject is very heavy. And whilst I don't want to make this a heavy offering or reading of the lunar eclipse, but at the same time, we like I know life goes on, and I know we have to live our life and we have to attend to our life story, whatever it is we're doing. But I think, when there's such a cataclysmic world crisis going on, I'm not sure that just turning a blind eye and pretending everything is dandy is the right thing either. I think we have to acknowledge, what's going on. And I think it is a responsibility for each of us to bring to the situation what we can from a point of awareness, consciousness, and love. I think that's really, really important. I just want to show you guys this picture that I posted on Facebook, and of course I've been slammed for it by a lot of people, which I really couldn't give a shit. So this picture is obviously of two young children in unity, right? In unison. And that's what we need. We need unity. These symbols, because that's what they are, they're symbols, and their history and so on and so forth, it doesn't even really matter for what I'm about to say. These symbols act as an identification that people identify with. And identification is one of the biggest problems in this world. Eckhart Tolle said it very, very well over a decade ago, perhaps 15 years ago. He said that the problem with the personality people is their over-identification with something, because the over-identification implies that what I identify with is that's it, that's the right thing. That's, I'm so invested and identified with this label, with this symbol, with whatever it is, that if the rest of the world doesn't, agree, then I'm in conflict with them. There's such a problem with ego identification with labels and so forth. So regardless of these identities, the point is that it is the answer to what is happening right now is love. It's not war, it's love. But the problem is, of course, that we're talking about an entire collective consciousness that is, for the most part, unconscious. These sorts of events, whilst they are activated, triggered, stimulated by a number of different things, as above, so below, for sure, as above, so below. However, why are we here on Earth? We are here to evolve, to become more conscious, to return back to our source. That's why we are here. We're born to have these experiences, which Jeffrey Wolf Green calls separating desires, to ultimately return to the source with no desires remaining. And it is abundantly clear that, you know, because the events on the one hand are also stimulated by the collective unconscious. So people, you know, have this position where they're blaming this one or blaming that one. But those people acting in those ways, sure, most of them are very evil. And I'm talking about the people who have those powers and that control to pull the strings on what they wish and how they wish to direct their power, their greed of power based on their particular belief and identity and so forth. But that is only able to happen because of us, because of the position that we take, because of how we behave, because of how we react, because of how we respond. So it's not about them or them. It's about all of us. And it's about all of us becoming conscious. So that's what I want to start off with. I know that's pretty intense and pretty heavy, but it's undeniable. Now we're going to look at the astrology, and the astrology, of course, is going to verify pretty much what's going on. But like I said in my previous video, we are here to evolve, and we are here to undergo spiritual initiation. At every turn, there's an opportunity for spiritual initiation, to become awake, aware. Aware of what? Awake in what? Awake in our true essential nature, our infinite nature, which is about love, unity. So when I posted that picture, you know, there were diverse opinions, of course, as always, and I'm not afraid to post controversial pictures, if you like. I'm not afraid of the backlash. That picture is supposed to serve a reminder of unity and love. That is all. And there were many people that jumped on and were accusing me of not seeing the reality of things, not seeing the truth. You know, either they were for this side or for that side, and I don't play into that game. I don't get hooked into the division, because my purpose on this earth is to bring love and light and the wisdom of the stars. And that's inclusive. That's about being inclusive and speaking the message of God, of love, unity. So, I mean, look, you know, whether you believe in Christ or not, whether you believe in he was a historical figure or not, it doesn't really matter. But even the story of Christ and what happened to him goes to show you that, you know, when even Jeffrey Wolf Green talks about it in this book here, Lucifer, there are many souls that the more they evolve and elevate and the closer they get to God, the more the presence of evil approaches. Because the presence of evil, and he says it here, he says, the intent of evil is to create the opposite reality intended. That is such a powerful statement, and it encapsulates what the archetype of Lucifer is all about. Because we all have the ability and the potential to be evil, every single one of us. And some of us are aware of that. Some of us are completely unconscious of that. Some of us are very conscious of that, and so on and so forth. But basically, I really love that line. The intent of evil is to create the opposite reality intended. So, again, I think we all have a responsibility to smash through the illusions and to rise above and to bring forth what we can through unity, not division. Division creates war. So let's go to the chart for today. So it's a partial lunar eclipse. Now, the eclipse occurs on the 29th of October. That is Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So that's in Australia. But for the Northern Hemisphere, that will be the 28th of October. Now, here's the alignment. Now, this alignment under other circumstances might not be as concerning, but given the nature of what's going on, these configurations are very, very concerning. First of all, we've got the sun that's just recently ingressed into Scorpio. In fact, it was today, which is the 24th of October. It was early hours of this morning sometime. So the sun, I think, is about 0 degrees of Scorpio as I speak. But at the point of the eclipse, it's 5 degrees. Mercury is there in Scorpio. Mars is there in Scorpio. And Ceres is there in Scorpio. And on the opposite side, of course, is the moon. Jupiter. Now, Uranus is much further on, but it's still there. It's in the same sign. So Jupiter is actually, if you look at it, it's 11 degrees of Taurus, which means it's exactly just minutes away from being exactly up. Mars has just passed the exact opposition of Jupiter. They're at the same degree anyway. I think that's quite telling. Now, Jupiter, Mars, under ordinary circumstances, is not a terrible aspect, but we are talking about Mars in his domicile in Scorpio, which is about death and transformation. It is about the dark side. It is about bloodshed. And it is about the cunningness of the dark side and unconscious side of Scorpio. And Ceres is the archetype that speaks to loss and mourning and death and rebirth. So, all in all, this is not an alignment that, given the circumstances, would point to something nice happening. It's an incredibly intense lunar eclipse following the very intense solar eclipse 2 weeks ago at 21 degrees of Libra, conjunct Israel's chart, which comes from a Saras cycle that involves Pluto and Mars. Venus is the morning star, which is the warrior goddess. Mars is currently invisible. The actions, motivations of people, individuals, groups, whatever it is, are very, very hidden. Now, look at what's happening in that part of the world at the moment. It's beyond painful and tragic, beyond. But as far as what's been projected and released and spoken about, which is just what they want us to know. We don't know what their real motivations and intentions are. And again, please understand, I am not talking about people as in the Jewish community or the Palestinian community. I'm talking about the people that are associated with those communities or cultures who hold the power and who make the decisions. The people are just the little lambs, the little sheep that are caught in between and used as victims, as human shields and whatnot. You know, it's really interesting because I've got a very strong association with the Arab culture. I lived in the Middle East for 8 years. I've seen the entire Middle East. I worked for a private airline for royalty, for the king, as a matter of fact. So I've had very close associations and alliances with people in the Middle East in very high power and position, to the poor person sitting on the street and, you know, asking for a piece of bread. I've seen a lot. And now, believe it or not, I live right across the road from a synagogue. I live in the heart of a Jewish community. My next door neighbours are Jewish. The synagogue is right across the road from me. I'm literally in the heart of Jewish people, which is bizarre because that wasn't planned. It's just happened. My point being that, you know, I'm very sort of, it's all right in front of me. And so even though I'm not Jewish, I'm not Middle Eastern, I'm actually Greek, I feel a very close sense about both. Perhaps that's why I'm speaking on it. Also, I'm a humanitarian kind of individual. And I do believe in, I believe in humanity. I believe in showing humanity with our own actions, you know. I believe in fairness and justice and equality. And I don't appreciate those greedy mongrels with their evil agendas and intentions. Not at all. So with this alignment here, and I also looked up some stars, and there is a star called Sheraton. And this particular star, it's not the best star, and it's actually, it's conjunct the moon. It's of the nature of Mars and Saturn. It is connected to the constellation Aries, and it sits up near the horns of Aries. Now, Aries and Taurus have some pretty evil stars hanging around there, but so does Pisces for that matter. And just very briefly, one of the lines that is written here about Sheraton is of the nature of Mars and Saturn, it causes bodily injuries, unscrupulous defeat, destruction by fire, war, or earthquake. So when I saw that, I thought, that doesn't encourage me very, very much at all about this lunar eclipse. But even if that wasn't there, look, the truth is that this is running off the back of the solar eclipse. That's what this is. This is the full moon, which started at the new moon. They just so happen to be a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, which makes them so much more profound, pronounced, and powerful. And with everything else that's going on in the picture, for a start, Eris is exactly conjunct the North Node in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war. Aries is an archetype that corresponds to conflict, war, fighting. And Eris is the sister of Mars, the goddess of war, exactly conjunct the North Node. So one might say, well, perhaps a lot of this is, at some irrational, because it is irrational, at some irrational level, this part of this is supposed to be happening. Whilst part of it is supposed to be happening, I would also argue that even in the happening, we still have a choice in the actions that we might take, as do these people that are taking their choices in their actions. We always have a choice. We always have a choice. It is up to us. You know, Jeff says that evil is there in all of us. And it always tries to entice us from the smallest little levels and layers to the more grand scales. And there are agents of evil as well, he says in his book. There are like specific agents of evil, which you may have met some of those in your lifetime. I've met a few. I know that. So again, I think, you know, overall, we're looking at a difficult lunar eclipse from the point of view of these collective cataclysmic events, especially with Sheraton, that star being conjunct the moon, which is of the nature of Mars and Saturn, the two malefics. And as it says there, some of the things that could be activated are things like war. Well, that's already activated. But imagine now we've got this star lining up with the eclipse. So what does that mean? It could mean that on the one side, ground invasion begins. It's, you know, it's likely that it will take place. We don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I pray so hard that it doesn't, you know, that it does not get there, and that it just stops immediately. There's powers that can stop this. So we'll just have to wait and see. And, you know, think about it. Taurus, at the most basic level, is about survival. That's what it's about, survival. And what's happening on one side of the earth there are thousands and thousands, and, well, there's a couple of million. More, actually, because I've just heard last night that Lebanon is very close to possibly being affected by all of this. Syria actually has been affected. Their Damascus, the international airport, was bombed just like yesterday or the day before. Another airport there was bombed. So that's not in the mainstream news, but that's happening. Syria is already under attack. So there's a lot going on that, you know, we're not seeing or we're not told about, because we're only being told one particular narrative, which is always the way. Think about the last 3 years with that diabolical narrative that played out, that basically deceived everyone on the planet and coerced humanity to participate in a program that was completely false. How was that done? That was done through propaganda and lies by powerful forces and by the media. So it's no different now. You're not going to hear the truth from mainstream media. And if you think you are, God, you've got a lot to realize. So, you know, there's a lot that we can't see, don't know about, and we are just left wondering. Very difficult times, very, very difficult times. Again, I'm not absolutely not wanting to create division or siding with any one side, because it is the powers above that they are the ones that need to be held accountable. They are the ones that need to take responsibility. That's the bottom line. I think Saturn in Pisces is not helping at all. And Neptune in Pisces is probably not helping either. Neptune creates hysteria in the masses. There is a hysteria at the moment about what? Think about it. Saturn's in Pisces, Neptune's in Pisces. Pisces is about beliefs, religion. So is Sagittarius, but so is Pisces. So, yeah, it's it's hard to come up with anything positive through this, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, because this Jupiter-Uranus is getting closer and closer. That can be sudden breakthroughs that we just couldn't see coming, that would be positive because it's Jupiter. And although that conjunction doesn't occur really till I think it's next year, World War II went on for, I think it was 7 years. So this situation on that side of the planet, I really don't think it's going to end in the next few days. It could go on for years. We don't know. Let's hope not. And like I said, Venus is the morning star, so she's the goddess of war. Virgo Pisces polarity axis, and Venus is approaching her opposition to Neptune, is really chaos and order. And she's the warrior goddess at the moment, in Virgo, in the archetype that is trying to establish order in the chaos. And she's the ruler of the South Node, but she's in detriment. So she's not in a powerful position from the point of view of zodiac signs. Still, she is the morning star, which is the warrior goddess. So, her meaning, her cycle at the moment is all about earthly matters. That's what the morning star is about. It corresponds to getting things done on the earth, but she has the story of the warrior goddess, and it's funny, because we never think of Venus as one that would bring conflict, because Venus is the archetype that, essentially speaks to peace and balance and justice and fairness and beauty and love. But when you go into ancient teachings and you understand that Venus, who's Ishtar, who was the goddess of Akkad, a city in Babylon, ruled by an empire and a king that basically had victory over fighting, lots of land, territory, countries, and so on and so forth. It was in combat. That city was known for its abilities and skills for fighting and war and winning, by the way. And that was because of Venus's association to that city as a morning star. All these things matter. And Mars invisible. That cunning Mars in Scorpio, because Mars in Scorpio at that really unconscious level, unfortunately, is very, very cunning. You don't know which direction it's going to come from. And here it is involved in the lunar eclipse. It's opposite the moon. It's conjunct the sun. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see a lot of good things through this lunar eclipse. I could be wrong, and there could be something suddenly that just comes to light that shifts things in another direction. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's not, because a full moon is, it's the halfway point of a cycle, of the sun-moon cycle. And something begins at the new moon, which was the solar eclipse. That solar eclipse energy, that beginning was... it was what it's shown up, right? What has shown up, war, basically. conflict, etc. But the full moon is more an energy of what is going to bring things to light. See, when something begins at the new moon or the solar eclipse, remember, solar eclipse, new moon, it's dark. You can't see anything. It's full of, all potential, all possibilities. Anything can happen. And at the full moon is where things get, that's where the light gets shined and things are seen. So we might see things that we just were not prepared for at all. It might be good things. Jupiter is there. That gives us some hope. But my concern is the Jupiter opposite Mars, because Mars is the god of war. It's in his own domicile, very strong position for Mars. And Jupiter opposite Mars could just explode and expand that Mars, put it on the most powerful steroids. That's what it would be. Jupiter opposite Mars is like Mars on steroids, just, absolutely no remorse, no conscience, no nothing. And evil people who operate from these positions, they don't have a conscience. They don't care how many people they kill, how many people they hurt, as long as they achieve their objective. You can't have a conscience and empathy and sensitivity and not be in touch with evil when you behave like that. It's impossible. Okay, I'm going to move away from the collective crisis and bring in perhaps some considerations and thoughts about ourselves, individually, what this might mean. Now, one thing to consider is that we had some lunar eclipses in 2021 in Taurus, in 2021 and 2022. So some of the stories that might have been activated in your life at that time, if there were things activated in your chart, so wherever Taurus, Scorpio polarity sits in your chart, that's the area of focus. Now, if the Taurus Scorpio polarity happens to be in angular houses in your chart, then then this eclipse would prove to be perhaps more powerful, more obvious. Angular houses, of course, are 1, 10, 4, and 7. They're the angular houses of the birth chart. They are very, very powerful houses. So if you've got the lunar eclipse, sun and moon opposite in any of these houses, and you can track back to 21 and 2022, you might find some, more significant meaning out of this lunar eclipse for yourself. And of course, it has to do with Taurus that matters, Taurus, Scorpio, actually. So it is about transformations, letting go, release, finishing, dying to certain things, Scorpio. And the Taurus component, of course, is our values, right? You may have just gone through really significant changes in your whole attitude of values, your whole belief in values, because values actually do establish our beliefs. So there's a lot of different descriptions that can come through Taurus and Scorpio, but those are some of the core themes. And because, of course, Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign, and Venus is in her detriment at the moment. So, yes, the moon is exalted in Taurus. And is that going to be helpful at this time on the collective level? I don't know. With everything that's going on, it's highly unlikely. But, we never know. We can always keep an open mind, because anything can happen. There's a big, a big portion of this existence of our life, of everything that's going on in this world, that we really don't know. We really don't understand. Either we are really unconscious to, Yeah, or just there's just an element of life that is hidden. Scorpio, Pluto. There's a mystery. We can't know all the answers. We want to. Someone's knocking on my door, and that's very, very odd, and I don't really want to tend to that right now. Just have to let them go away. Okay, so values, Venus things, love, money, relationships, you know, the basic core Taurian themes emphasized during this lunar eclipse, which could be connected to themes that were occurring in 2021 and 2022. Also, it is a big closing cycle, a big closing chapter for all of us in different ways for all of us, because the next Taurus lunar eclipse doesn't happen for about another 19 years. It's a long time. So there's something very big finishing off here. There's something very karmic and fated, destined, that's finishing in I believe in the collective, and also within our own lives individually, if these Taurus lunar eclipses have been important for us. That's something that we need to obviously reflect on ourselves and have a look at, you know, where the eclipses were in 2021, in 2022, and what was going on in your life at that time. So those are the main things really that I wanted to talk about today. I'd be interested to hear if you can think back to your own lives in 2021 and 2022 with Taurus lunar eclipses. I'm not talking about solar eclipses. I'm talking about the lunar eclipses. So, I mean, solar eclipses are generally the ones that appear to behave more chaotic and in the external. And lunar eclipses, they've got a different nature about them, because it's the moon, so it's feminine, but fundamentally it will shine the light on matters that began, let's say, 2 weeks ago when the solar eclipse occurred. But also, and Scorpio Taurus in esoteric astrology is the axis that corresponds to fated events taking place. That's the very specific axis, those 2 signs that correspond to very fated events going on there. That could be on an individual level or on a collective level. It's actually 0 degrees normally, though, and these planets are not at 0, but they're still in that axis. That does speak to very important, destined, fated turning points of events. And we can see that anyway, right? It's pretty clear, because what's transpiring at the moment on the Earth is not something that, you know, just started on the 7th of October. It's been going on not only for the past 75 years, but aspects of it have been going on probably thousands of years. And we're just at a very specific crisis point with it all. And whilst there is so much to say about it, whether it's culturally, whether it's from a society level, whether it's from a nationality level, whether it's from a religious level, political level, you know, there are so many ways to look at this, and all of those ways would have some validity for sure and inform us of certain insights and so forth, which are important. But I think ultimately, again, at the end of the day, it is more about how can we show more consciousness through this. War is not a reflection of consciousness. That's just a reflection of paranoia, greed, power grabs, annihilation, it's all aspects of the personality, ego, and the evil archetype, Lucifer. That's what war is about. And it's a business. It makes so much money. And, look, one of my favorite sayings in the Bible, there's several, but one of them is, sadly, money is the root to all evil. All you need to do is follow the trail of money in the world to see what it's created. Anyway, regardless of how heavy all of this is, yeah, I hope that you're able to stay centered in love and not be pulled into the intended division, the intended. What did Jeff say? He said the intent. Lost the page. Evil, I think he said, evil tries to create the opposite of the intended reality. Just remember that when you're looking at what's being presented. So let's see what happens. And I'd be interested to hear in your thoughts, reflections, and comments. And just remember, this Taurus lunar eclipse doesn't occur again for another 19 years. So there's got to be, for many of us, there will be big turning points in our own personal life from the point of view of Taurus, Scorpio significators. And just one other thing, when I did my previous video, I was talking about absolute longitude. I just want to clarify something. I did write it in the description to clarify it, but just in case people missed it and people didn't understand what I was talking about there. So absolute longitude starts at 0, right? Covers the whole zodiac, and it's basically horizontal lines that run sort of around the Earth, if you like, around the equator of the Earth. And when you run those lines across the Earth and you start at 0, 0 is Aries. When you get to 35 degrees on these absolute longitude lines, sorry, they're on that way, absolute longitude lines, 35 degrees equates to 5 degrees of Taurus, which is the lunar eclipse squaring Israel's sun at 5 degrees of Leo. That's what I was trying to say with that particular section in that reading. If you heard that and if you didn't understand it, that's what I was saying. So this lunar eclipse, therefore, is square where's oh look, never mind. But anyway, it's actually, well, it's square Israel's sun anyway, because it's 5 degrees of Taurus, right? But I'm talking about absolute longitude, where 35 degrees, because Israel Tel Aviv is 35 degrees east in longitude. And that 35 degrees east longitude equals 5 degrees of Taurus. Hence why this lunar eclipse is super powerful, super important for what's going on over there. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, guys, I'm sending you so much love and peace to all. Peace, may peace and love light up in your heart and your mind and your soul and your consciousness. And I say this to every single soul on the planet, including myself, of course. May that be the source that leads. That's what we need. And again, if you're interested in my classes, send me an email, or if you're interested in some type of reading, I offer many, many different types of readings: Venus star point readings, transits, progressions, primary directions, medieval astrology, Fidaria periods, annual perfections, you name it, right? And I'm going to be teaching all those subjects as well next year. So yeah, reach out if you're interested in any of that or have any questions. Much love and see you guys soon.